Hello, my name is Rais'a Wilkinson. I'm a teacher at George Hall Elementary School, and I am here with our administrator at George Hall. I'm going to let her introduce herself.
Hello, my name is Lexi Greer. I'm the school counselor here at George Hall Elementary. This is my sixth year at George Hall as a school counselor. Prior to this, I was an elementary school teacher for 11 years. I've taught in 5 different states. My husband's retired military. I've also been a curriculum director and have done consulting work around curriculum.
Okay,
Mhm.
awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for being here and
I'm
taking the
happy to be
time out
here.
to do this with me.
Absolutely.
So, a couple of questions. So, the
Mhm.
first one is about sustainable change.
Okay.
So, what strategies do you believe are the most effective in ensuring long-term positive changes in rural education?
I think so I've taught in a variety of different types of schools, all public schools, but mostly suburban and inner city. But I live in a rural area
Oh, okay.
of Mobile. So I would say some strategies that I think are effective in rural education are understanding the needs of the population. Every school community is different and has different needs. So really understanding what those needs for that population are, no matter what type of school you're in, rural, suburban, inner city, is important for creating and ensuring long-term positive change and understanding what the needs of the students and the families are.
Yeah.
So, which may look very different from us here in an inner city school, but also important needs that just as we address our students' needs, it's important to see what those needs are. Because you don't want to, as the school counselor when I started here, I didn't want to come in with some preconceived idea of like what I thought our students needed.
Right.
I really spent time initially talking with the teachers and the admin and the students to figure out what their needs are, which was very different than maybe a suburban school.
Yeah,
So,
for sure.
yeah.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you.
Mhm.
All right. So, can you also share an example of what a successful initiative looks like at George Hall? And maybe that same initiative could be applied to a rural school.
Absolutely. One of our most successful initiatives is our calm spaces. And so 6 years ago when I began here, the principal at the time and I had a conversation about what some of the needs are that she saw that she wanted me to help address as the school counselor. And at the time we were looking at trauma informed educational practices, restorative practices, and we came up with this idea of like calm spaces. It was, not fully trending yet,
Yeah.
but it was definitely something that was in the educational ether of like, or the ethos of like, oh, could calm spaces work?
Yeah.
And so we modeled our practice after Nashville Public Schools
Oh,
because
okay.
they had an initiative of bringing in calm spaces and doing some restorative work. And so I talked with an educator there and talked with her about how they had set up their calm spaces. And so we did some training. I trained the teachers. We provided some calm space items for the teachers to have. It looks very different at the pre-K level than it does, let's say, at the upstairs or third, fourth, and fifth grade teachers.
Right. Yep.
And we've continued to have them every year. And as the counselor, I can attest anecdotally, but also in my data of that having calm spaces in the classroom, no matter what type of school you're in, allows children to have a space where they can go and re-regulate and take a 10-minute break.
Yeah.
And then come back to learning. And the research outside of us really shows that when you don't remove children from their classroom, when you keep them in their classroom and they have that opportunity to like just take a 10-minute break and then rejoin the class, that the disruption of learning is much less than if we go and get them and bring them to the office or bring them to the counseling room. So that's been a really successful initiative. I've talked with lots of other counselors in the district about doing calm spaces. And I think it would work in any school setting.
For sure. Yeah, and I agree. And I remember working at a school where in Houston, we had like 2,000 sixth and seventh graders.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the one thing that I can say that I didn't see implemented. They had other things implemented, but not an actual calm space.
Yes.
Usually it would be, calling the parent.
Yes.
Which could bring
all sorts of, yes, right. Yeah, and yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Because you don't know like what the relationship is with that child and that parent, or how that parent's going to handle, that situation, or even if they might be available, because there are definitely times when we call parents and they're not available to come for a situation. And the calm space isn't even like, our principal has her own calm space, so that the students learn that the office isn't just punitive, that we understand that they have emotional needs and we're willing to address them. And in my weekly counseling lessons, I'm teaching them calming strategies, redirection strategies. I work with the teachers to develop restorative practices, using, language that helps children grow versus, kind of shutting them down. So I think the Calm Spaces has been one of our more successful initiatives that have, across the board from pre-K through fifth grade, that our kids, I can see the fruit of it, because our fifth graders were kindergartners when I first started, and I can see them really, maturing in how they are able to talk about their feelings and talk about and be like, oh, I'm feeling angry right now. I know what strategies I can use. So.
Okay, awesome. Okay, so next question. So this is regarding encouragement for the community and collaboration. So how does George Hall engage families at the local community and student success, and the local community and student success?
Sure. So engaging families is one of our strong initiatives this year. So we do things like monthly family engagements, where on one Thursday a month we have Thankful Thursday, where parents and guardians, family members, grandparents, whomever in that child's family can come and have lunch with their child.
Okay.
And that has been really positive. We've seen a lot of, the kids are just excited to see their parents and be able to kind of, have that special time with them, 30 minutes of enjoying lunch with them. So that's been a very, an easy way to engage the parents and get them to come into the building. We've also done things like family nights, where we have, we've had a social emotional wellness night after school, where we set up some different activities for the students to participate in with their family members. We've done like a math and science night in the past, where parents can come and we do kind of STEM and STEAM activities, and that's really fun for the kids, because they, they come out of uniform and they show their parents all this fun activities that they know how to do. Another way that we've engaged families is we do honor walks. And so so at the end of the quarter, every child gets an award for something. Some children might receive a few, like if they're AB on roll or perfect attendance, or things that they're working on in the classroom, that they're, have shown some good success with, and they will, receive award. The parents come and take pictures, and our principal puts on a blow up costume and leads a parade. Yes. And I think it's very, it's just fun for the parents to see their child being awarded something that they've been working towards. Another thing that we've started this year is we have Friday with Dr. Friday, our principal. And so on Friday mornings at carpool and arrival, we have a theme for the day, and Dr. Friday will put on a blow-up costume, and any other teachers who want to engage with it will also put on some type of, costume to celebrate. If we're doing an attendance challenge, or we've done one, for Valentine's Day or for Christmas or a certain holiday, and we welcome the parents and the children into the building. And that is just, it's a way to celebrate all the hard work that we've done all week. And the parents love it. It's fun. We get lots of, big smiles and waves at carpool. And my kids are walking up. And then we, after arrival, we'll, greet them in the cafeteria during breakfast and in their classroom. So I think all of those things, they're easy to implement. They don't take a lot of money. They don't take a lot of, Thankful Thursday. They just come up and have lunch with their kid. It's not, there's nothing, some big performative thing that we have to do. Like they're just engaging with their child, and I think all of those little things together really engages our parents to be able to see that we are, part of the community. We want them engaged as part of the community and part of support as well. Trying to think if I answered that
Oh,
part
no,
of your
you
question.
did. I'll have
Okay.
to insert some pictures because that's my
It's
first
very
day here. It was
joyful.
fun. It
Yes,
is.
it's so joyful.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I always
Yeah.
tell anyone, any guests who come and put on the costumes with Dr. Friday, I'm like, it's better than being Santa Claus. Like, if you want to see what pure joy feels like, you put on one of those costumes, and the kids just love it. So that's been really great. Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
Okay, so next question. So, what advice would you give to both schools, let's say, on fostering stronger partnerships with businesses, organizations, and parents?
Okay. So as the school counselor, business partners is one of the things that I kind of manage, or at least help to get organized. And so one thing that has worked very successfully for us is tapping into who our teachers are connected to. So, in the past, it's not uncommon, to look at your local businesses around your school and see, like, Alabama Power is close to us, or maybe one of our local churches is close to us, and that's great. And we do connect with them. But I've also, over the years, really reached out to the teachers and said, hey, if you have, some followers on Facebook, if you have family members that want to engage or donate items, if you're involved in a charity, or you do some community work, or their own local church wants to support. And through that, we've gotten a lot of support. And it's been continuing support. It's not just been like kind of a one and done thing, which is fine too. But we've really, just through word of mouth, through the adults in the building, been able to connect with some businesses that maybe wouldn't have even known that, our little tiny school even exists. And we've built some really great partnerships where they just continue, to want to help support our community, and also, to be able to connect with them. So, for example, our reading coach was friends with a woman who is part of the AMPA Arts. And so she connected with her because their kids go to the same school, and she reached out to her, and they were talking about it, and we had a professional artist come and paint this beautiful mural on our main hallway. That was all just through.
I didn't even realize that was that connection.
Yes, like that connection.
That's really cool.
Same with our local master gardeners. We've had our Thanksgiving food baskets, which are these beautiful Thanksgiving baskets. Just came through a conversation that one of our special education teachers had with a friend of a friend, and that's been an ongoing partnership. So those types of, just kind of word of mouth has been really beneficial. The other connection that I would say is tap into your parents. So we definitely have a few parents that own businesses or are connected to businesses that have come in and said, like, oh, we own, a snow cone truck. We will definitely come and help to sponsor whatever we can. Or go to some of, a certain charity or church, and they've been able to make those connections for us. So I would say tap into what you already have locally in your own building. And that's been really beneficial.
So what about the jackets? Each of our students got a jacket.
Yeah, so every school got a jacket. So we partnered with a local church group. And that was just a kind of a monthly snack food donation that we started a few years ago. And then at the beginning of this year, when they were doing one of the food donations, she asked, she was like, hey, one of our board members of our church is connected to the Knights of Columbus. That's right. Is that something that you all would be interested in? I was like, absolutely. Like, give that person my name and number. Let's have a conversation and see what we can do. And just through that, easy conversation, that was able to, we were able to get every child in the building a winter jacket.
So amazing. I think that is really cool.
Yeah, it was great. It was and unexpected. Like, I didn't know where was it, because sometimes we'll get donations and someone will be like, hey, I'll donate 10 jackets, or here's some shoes, which is great, because we will take whatever we can.
For sure.
We've definitely, needed them over the years. So, but being able to provide every child with a jacket was a really nice treat this year.
It was really cool.
Yes.
Again, first time I've ever seen anything like that.
Yes.
Just to get all the kids downstairs and coldest
Yes.
days of the year.
I mean, yeah,
that
it
we
was
had.
definitely,
Everybody
they've
got
come
to
into
go.
hand, and the kids
Yeah.
still wear them.
They
I mean,
still
there's,
wear
yep. So,
Okay, so
yeah.
that is awesome.
Yeah.
And the next question is about a vision for a thriving and empowered rural school
Okay.
or community. So, what do you think is an ideal thriving rural school? What does that look like to you? And also, what steps do you think that educators can take to achieve that?
Oh, it's a big question.
It is a
of
big
what-
question. It is. We can
What
break it
makes
up.
a thriving rural school? You know, at the end of the day, as a counselor, you know, the research shows, you know, there's a saying, you gotta like Maslow before Bjork, right? So you gotta meet those students, you know, Maslow's hierarchy of needs. You have to meet their personal needs before you're ever gonna get them
Yep.
learning and engaged and wanting to come to school. And so our students know, and over the years, we've really, this has just become a given, and our kids know that if they don't have a pair of uniform pants that are clean or they're ripped or whatever, they don't stay home. They come to school.
Yeah.
And we have an entire uniform closet. It's actually our stage that
Yeah.
we have multiple sizes, and they know that they can come and ask for whatever uniform needs they have. Shirts, sweatshirts. To the point, like we have a whole toiletry section, right? So if they need deodorant or hair products or toothbrush, toothpaste,
right.
any of those types, shampoo, so those types of things. So that and while the needs are different, they're also similar in what rural schools may need, just for different reasons. And so, you know, if a child here doesn't have transportation, or needs breakfast in the morning, you know, we make sure that the kids know to communicate with us. And so, when we did some trauma informed training years ago, one of the key factors or the most important component of trauma informed education and helping a child really develop resiliency is building relationships.
Yep.
And it has been a main focus of ours every year of modeling how to build relationships with kids, talking with teachers on how to develop relationships, even with when our children can show some very challenging behaviors. But 100% of the time, if a kid is having a tough time, you know, the old saying was like, oh, they're attention seeking, and I've really helped work to change the idea that it's not attention seeking, it's connection seeking. Like they are looking to connect somehow. They just don't have the tools to do that in a healthy way.
Right.
And so once we've developed those relationships with kids, they know, like, you know, if they don't have breakfast at home, although they have breakfast here, but if they come in late, we're going to give them a granola bar and some applesauce or, you know, something to get through the morning, that they can talk with us about whatever is going on. So I do think that any school, but since you're talking about the rural schools, in order to thrive, you have to see where kids are at,
right,
and meet those needs first, because an initiative may come in and be like, oh, we have this great curriculum like that we're going to bring in, it's going to be this amazing curriculum, and it might be amazing,
right,
but if the kids are showing up hungry or not showing up because they don't have uniforms or clothing or transportation or whatever,
it could be the best
their
curriculum
thing,
ever.
it could be the best curriculum ever, but if they're not, you know, if their brains aren't ready to engage, or they're not showing up because they have certain things that they don't have access to, it doesn't matter. So thinking about what those initial personal needs are of our children, and then like the jackets, right? Like we know that our children all live 2 miles from our school, and most of them, or a good percentage of them, walk. And so having jackets so that they'll come to school even when it's cold or rainy is essential too. And I think those little acts, while they might seem from the outside like, oh yeah, you know, whatever, okay, so you gave them like a uniform shirt, or like you gave them a granola bar on the way to school, like that builds that connection of trust, and them feeling more resilient, and that they can come into school and be like, okay, I know that even if I don't have these things at home, or I'm going through a tough time, there are people in the building who I know that I can connect with. And
that's
so I think
trust.
So I think that those things are really, they go a long way, whether or not, like I said, it's rural or suburb or inner city schools.
I love that. That's awesome.
Well,
Okay. So, a bonus question for you.
Okay.
So, what are the biggest challenges that you could see in a rural education setting? I'll start there.
Okay. Well, in a rural education setting, just knowing the schools that are out where I live,
Yeah.
right, transportation could be an issue.
Right.
Where our children, because we're inner city and we're situated in a suburb of Mobile City, our kids can walk to school because there's sidewalks
Right.
everywhere. We also have, public transportation readily available. And our kids all live near other friends. And so if they can't get to school, we have lots of friends who are like bring other kids other than their own to and from school. So I would imagine that one of the challenges is transportation of like if the mileage is too long for a child, say to walk or get to school. So how would that be addressed, right? Like so as a counselor, if I knew a child was struggling with transportation, I'm reaching out to the parent, grandparents, guardians, whoever's, the adults in that child's life, checking in with my social worker, right, the school social worker to kind of see like, hey, what can we provide? What's going on? Like, why is this a challenge for this family or these families? How can we address that? Right. And then working up the chain, like, does it need to go to the transportation department? Is there something that we could change to help make sure that we're getting these kids into the building? So I could see that being a challenge for rural schools. I know when I worked, when I taught in California, I had a lot of families that were migrant workers. And while we were a suburban school, a lot of their families would leave, depending on the season, from, going to work in agriculture during certain seasons. And so having those conversations with parents and knowing like, okay, well, what is your work schedule? Like, what is, like, if they do work an agricultural type job, what is the expectation on the child, whether they're in elementary school, middle, or high school? And knowing what those challenges are for the parent and why a child is missing, not just assuming like, oh, this child has this, challenging attendance, and then come to find out, well, yes, because, your fifth graders taking care of little ones at home while mom or dad or, have an agricultural job, or they're waking up. So another thing that, the challenge we've had is kids coming into the building and being really tired. And that might be because a lot of our families may be working shift work. And so kids are kind of getting themselves up because their parent or grandparent is asleep or they're gone doing shift work. So in an agricultural or a rural school, I would imagine maybe children might be getting up very early to help potentially, work in an agricultural type setting, possibly. And so what is that? How is the school? Can we meet that need and help work with that family? So is it offering before school care? If the school can't offer before school care, is there a facility or is there, an extended day program nearby that we can work with that parent to help get that child to the extended day care so that the child's, able to get to school on time. So things like that, knowing what your community resources are, working with the social worker, developing those relationships.
Okay, so you answered the second part of that question, and the two things that I learned about working at George Hall is two things: is showing up and then having just communicating. It goes a long way, and I can say that each and every one of us, from the teachers to the parents to the teachers to
the custodians, like everyone, custodians, we all
show up. Have each other's backs.
Absolutely.
I think that from rural to suburban,
absolutely,
that plays a part. So
it does play a huge part. Yeah. It is that old moniker where it takes a village, but it really does take a village, no matter if your village is in the city, in the suburbs, or in the country, right, in a more rural setting. Like, we all have the same purpose, right? We all have the same goal at the end of the day, and we work together to achieve that goal. So
yes, awesome. Well, thank you so
much. Absolutely, happy to help. Hopefully
it
was helpful.
Very helpful, but thank you so much.
Yes, thank you.